Let's start making a sour cherry and walnut round challah. This is a braided challah with a 4-strand braid. It looks complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. So I have made my dough. This is a lightly enriched dough. There's butter and eggs and things like that, but it's not heavy like a brioche dough with lots of butter and things. So I'm tipping out my dough. It's nicely risen. Nothing smells better than freshly risen dough. Makes the house. Oh, there I go in for a smell. Yes! It smells so good. Happy dance. Happy dance. Thank the Lord. That's a blessing. That's a good thing. So now I'm dividing my dough into 4 even portions, making sure each piece is on par with the next piece. For things like this, it's not essential, but you do kind of want to make sure things are even. It just means your dough rises even and the shape is more even. And to make sure that my dough is even, I'm actually going to grab my scale and weigh out my pieces just to make sure they're kind of around the same size. If they're a gram or 2 off, it's no big deal, just so long as everybody's pretty much in the same weight. It makes the finished product look a lot more professional, dare I say, more even. Always got to take off them little bits. One is always a little bigger than the other. And it's funny, no matter how many times you do this, it's rare that you hit the exact weight that you're looking for. It happens from time to time, but not often. And I'm just keeping the other pieces of dough that I'm not working with, keeping them covered under a towel so they don't dry out. Little flour on my pastry board, flour the rolling pan, and we're just going to roll this out until it's an ideal size, which is actually pretty long, because you want these to be long ropes. Now here I'm adding on my filling, which is a mixture of sour cherries that I actually kind of stewed them in water, reconstituted them, and pureed them in a blender. Added in, not a blender, a food processor. Added in some brown sugar, softened butter, a little bit of spices, some cinnamon, and some finely chopped walnuts. That I did pulse all of that for a little while. You don't want to lose your texture, but you don't want it to be too many chunks, because that can break through the dough. And then I'm just rolling it up into a long rope, about between 18 to 20 inches long. You don't want it to be too short, because then that hinders your shaping. So it should be fairly long. And you want to make sure you enclose all that filling good so nothing seeps out. Unlike if you're making a babka or a cinnamon roll or something that you would cut the dough, some of your filling is going to come out anyway. But for this one, you want to make sure everything is tucked in, nicely enclosed. And I'm just keeping my others covered so they don't dry out. Now it's time for shaping. And as I say, this looks complicated. It's just a matter of remembering where you are in your shaping and remembering what piece goes next. So we've got piece 1, and then on top is piece 2, and then piece 3, kind of like a lattice design here. And where each piece goes does matter. and get them even. You notice how long they are? They're actually a little longer than 18 inches, to be honest. They are much longer than that. But as I say, the longer the better, and the larger your loaf will be. And your loaf won't be quite um, so bulky. It gives you a nice smoother. Okay, so there we are. So 1/4. And then you do have to make sure you get them, because if there's too many gaps there, it creates too many holes. So you want to make sure that you kind of close up those gaps. And there are many tutorials online that teach how to do this. And if you lose your form, and I did, even while making this, I lost and I had to take it loose and go back and do it again. That's perfectly fine. That happens. It happens to all of us. You just undo it. Kind of like when you're braiding your hair. You undo it, do it again. It's fine. Yeah, I'm pausing actually because I'm thinking about it. Who goes next? Who goes next? But this is fun. This is actually fun. You can practice with rope too. That's another good thing. You can practice with rope. And the traditional 3-strand, or the 3 on the bottom and 3 on the top strand challahs, are fun and they're easy. This is a little bit more intricate because it's a round challah with a basket weave. That's what this is called, a basket weave. And you just keep going around and shaping your loaf. And it's funny because as it starts to, the shape starts to come together, you begin to see where the next pieces go, and then it's less guesswork because it begins to explain itself as you go along. So as complicated as it looks, it's not super complicated, although it's more complicated than a 3-strand. But I find things like this more fun. I love intricate bakes, if one can call this intricate. And you see what I mean about you encase that filling in good, because you wouldn't want any to pop out or leak out or start to ooze out at this point. That would make your shaping a little bit more complicated, especially if you lost your step and you had to undo it. So that's why you want to make sure that everything is properly tucked in. And I would advise that you would shape this instead of, I'm shaping it on my pastry mat, but you can shape it on the parchment paper that you're going to let it rise on. That makes it easier transferring it. Then that pretty much goes for any of these types of doughs that could be a little complicated. So I've tucked the ends under. That's just the ends that actually you don't braid. And I'm just tucking it under the loaf. The loaf has risen at this point. I just left it on my pastry board and let it let it rest, not risen. Let it rest for a little while before I move it. And if you notice, it's already starting to puff up a little bit. Very nice. And now I'm just going to apply an egg wash. That helps keep the dough moist while it rises. And when you bake it, it'll give it a beautiful golden shine. And I'm just going to use the egg yolk and not the white. The white makes your egg wash a little bit more runny, and you don't quite get that deep golden mahogany color. That the yolk is better for an egg wash. And I think I'm looking for. No, I know what I was doing. I was washing my hands. I'm an avid hand washer, firmly, but I just don't like that idea of doing too many things without first stopping to wash your hands. I'm just adding a little bit of water to thin it out just a tiny bit. You don't want it runny, but a straight egg yolk is a little bit too thick, and it can cause it to burn. So you want to add just a tiny bit of water, and that little bit of water helps it to spread a little better. And also, your dough don't run the risk of getting too brown, too dark on top. Of course, as it bakes, if it begins to get too dark on top, just tint your bake with a little bit of foil, piece of foil, and that helps to kind of slow down the brownie. Brush it on very good. You want to avoid letting this run down to the pan. That can cause the egg to pool and it can actually burn a little bit, so avoid that if possible. And I'm getting a piece of plastic wrap and I'm going to cover it. You can put this in a large reusable plastic bag if you have one. That works too. And I would advise that you would spray your plastic wrap with a little bit of nonstick spray, baking spray, just to make sure. So here's the finished product. Thank you, Jesus. Looks delicious. Oh, that looks so good. Fresh out the oven. I hope you'll give this a try. It's not too complicated. It is a little bit advanced, but I think you'll like it. I think your family will love it. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment if you would like to see more content like this. Enjoy it. Thank the Lord for you watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.